The single most effective weapon a company has isn't a lawyer. It isn't a lockout. It's a rumor. And the favorite rumor in every single union hall during an election year is always the same. If you change the pilot, the plane crashes. They want you to believe that if you vote for new leadership, you are personally pressing a reset button that deletes years of progress.
And that is exactly what I'm hearing right now. It is the number one anxiety I see on the message boards, in the break rooms, everywhere. People are terrified that if they vote for a new president, negotiations don't just stall, they stop. I've actually heard the specific phrase 5-year delay tossed around. Like, if we switch gears now, we are looking at 5 more years of waiting.
Which is mathematically and legally nonsense. But it's effective nonsense. It's designed to make you settle for mediocrity out of fear of the unknown. Today, we need to dismantle that scare tactic. Look at the actual laws governing this, specifically under the Railway Labor Act, and talk about why speed is often the enemy of a good contract.
This is the conversation we need to have. We're talking about leadership changes, the myth of the reset button, and why a quick deal is usually a bad deal. We're also going to look at what's happening in the auto industry with the UAW and how that applies here. Because the choice usually isn't between fast and slow, it's between cost neutral and actually making a living.
Exactly. Let's get into it.
So let's start with the big scary number 5 years. If a union membership votes out their current president and brings in a new administration mid negotiation, does the process actually reset to zero? Do we lose everything on the table?
No, not automatically, and certainly not legally. Let's look at the structure here. If you are in the airline or rail industry, you are likely governed by the Railway Labor Act, or RLA. Under the RLA, contracts do not expire in the traditional sense. They become amendable. The process is overseen by the National Mediation Board, the NMB. The NMB is a federal agency. They control the timeline. They do not care who the union president is. If leadership changes on Tuesday, the NMB doesn't look at their calendar on Wednesday and say, well, throw it all out, see you in 2030.
So the government isn't resetting the clock. But what about the company? If I'm the CEO and I see a new union president walk in, don't I have an excuse to say, well, I don't know you. Let's start over?
They can try to say that, but they are legally obligated to bargain in good faith with the institution, not the individual. The union is the institution. The bargaining committee often remains largely intact even if the president changes. But here is the reality of what happens during a transition. There are usually 3 scenarios. Scenario A, the committee stays the same and the new president just changes the tone. Maybe they add a few advisors, but the meetings keep happening on schedule.
Okay, that seems like the path of least resistance.
Right. Then there is scenario B. The bargaining team is restructured. The new president might say, look, the economic experts we were using were giving us bad data. I'm bringing in a new economist. That might cause a pause of a few weeks, maybe a month or 2, but not years.
And scenario C.
Scenario C is the strategic reset. This is where the new leader looks at the tentative agreements on the table and says, these are garbage. We are withdrawing them. Now, this is what the scaremongers warn you about. They say, see, he withdrew the proposal. We're going backward. But you have to ask yourself, if the proposal was bad, isn't withdrawing it a good thing? Taking the step back to aim the cannon correctly isn't a delay. It's a correction.
That's the nuance that gets lost, because when people hear withdraw proposals, they hear, I'm not getting my raise. But if that raise came with terrible strings attached, maybe you didn't want it in the first place.
Precisely. And that brings us to the concept of cost-neutral bargaining. This is the trap that weak leadership often falls into, and it's why a change in leadership is sometimes the only way to save a contract. Cost-neutral is corporate speak for a zero-sum game. The company says, okay, we will give you that 5% raise you want, but to pay for it, we need to increase your healthcare premiums, remove your per diem, and loosen the scope clause so we can outsource more work.
It's a shell game. They move the money from your left pocket to your right pocket and call it a raise.
It's actually worse than a shell game because you usually end up with less security. If you have leadership that is willing to accept cost-neutral terms just to get a deal done quickly, just to say, hey, I got you a contract, you are actively selling your future. A progressive bargaining strategy, which is what we are seeing with the UAW and Sean Fain, rejects cost neutrality. It says, no, we aren't trading healthcare for wages. We are taking the profits you made off our labor, and we are demanding both.
Let's talk about Sean Fain, because that is the example everyone is looking at right now. He took over the United Auto Workers recently, and it was a massive shakeup. The narrative before he came in was very similar to what we're discussing. People said he was too radical, that he'd cause a disaster.
The establishment within the UAW said he would ruin the relationship with the big three automakers. They said his demands were impossible. He wanted a 40% raise. He wanted to end the tiered wage system, where new hires made half of what legacy workers made. He wanted cost of living adjustments, or COLA, reinstated. The expert said, you can't do that. It'll take 10 years. Fain said, watch me.
And he didn't do it by being polite. He did it by being aggressive.
He did it through what we called the stand-up strike. He didn't just strike everywhere at once. He kept the companies guessing. He used unpredictability as leverage. But most importantly, he didn't accept the premise that the workers had to pay for their own raises. He didn't do cost neutral. He forced the company to dip into their record profits. If the UAW had kept their old leadership, the leadership that was comfortable with the status quo, they would have signed a concessionary deal months earlier. It would have been faster, and it would have been worth billions of dollars less to the membership.
So, when we talk about delay, we have to ask, what is the cost of speed? If I get a contract 6 months sooner, but it costs me $100,000 over the life of my career in lost benefits, was that speed worth it?
There is a term for that, the Quickie contract. Management loves a Quickie contract. They know that if they can dangle a signing bonus in front of you, say $5,000 up front, you might not notice that they gutted your work rules. They want to rush you. They want you to feel panic. Sign this now or you'll wait 5 years. That is a pressure tactic to get you to sign away your job protection.
Job protection and work rules. That feels like the stuff that makes your eyes glaze over when you're reading a summary, but it's actually where the quality of life lives. It's not just the hourly rate.
Work rules are everything. You can make $300 an hour, but if the company owns you 24/7, if they can reassign you at will, if they can ignore seniority, your life is miserable. And this connects directly to the issue of enforcement. This is a point I cannot stress enough. A contract is only as good as the administration enforcing it.
This is the use it or lose it concept, right?
It's legal doctrine. It's called past practice or acquiescence. Imagine you have a contract that says the company must pay you double time if you work through lunch. Clear as day. But for the last 4 years, the company hasn't been paying it, and your union president hasn't filed a grievance. They just let it slide. They've been cooperative.
So the company thinks, great, we don't have to pay this.
And legally, they might be right. If you go to arbitration later, the company can argue, hey, the union knew we weren't paying this for 4 years and didn't say a word. They acquiesced. This is the new normal. The arbitrator will often side with the company. The written contract didn't change, but the enforceable contract did. The old leadership effectively gave away your rights by doing nothing.
That is terrifying. So if you have a president who isn't enforcing the book is essentially burning up page by page.
Exactly. So when people say don't change leadership, it's risky, the real risk is keeping a leader who has allowed the contract to rot. If you re-elect a president who didn't enforce the contract, you are validating that neglect. You are cementing those lost rules as the new standard. A new president is the only mechanism you have to say, stop. We are drawing a line. We are grieving this now. It might be a fight to get those rules back, but if you don't change leaders, those rules are gone forever.
And that ties back to the healthcare issue too. I've heard that rushing a contract can leave healthcare exposed.
Healthcare costs are the single biggest variable for companies. They hate fixed healthcare costs. They want to shift that burden to the employee. In a Quickie negotiation or a cost-neutral one, the company will say, we'll give you a 20% raise, but we need to switch you to this high-deductible plan. If you don't have a leadership team that is willing to dig in their heels and say, no, our health is not for sale, you will lose coverage. Once you lose a benefit like fully paid healthcare, getting it back is nearly impossible. You don't get that back in the next contract. It's gone.
So let's talk about leverage. If the fear of delay is the stick the company uses, what is the carrot for the union? What actually moves the needle if it's not just being nice?
Leverage is clarity plus solidarity. That's it. The company needs to know two things. One, the membership is informed and angry. And two, the leadership is willing to execute on that anger. If the company looks across the table and sees a union president who is afraid of his own shadow or who is too cozy with management, they know they can stall. They know they can lowball. That causes delays. Weakness causes delays. Strength speeds things up.
That's a counterintuitive point. People think fighting causes delays. You're saying weakness causes delays because the company has no incentive to finish.
Think about it. If I owe you money and I know you're never going to actually make me pay you, you're just going to ask politely every 6 months, why would I pay you today? I'll keep that money in my bank account earning interest. I'll delay forever. But if I know that you have the ability to shut down my operation or to publicly shame me or to mobilize your workforce to follow every single rule to the letter, which slows down my operation, then I have an incentive to write the check. Sean Fain didn't get a deal because he asked nicely. He got a deal because he cost GM and Ford millions of dollars a day. That is leverage.
And that mobilization requires the membership to trust the leader. If the membership thinks the leader is hiding things or making side deals, they won't mobilize.
Trust is the fuel. You cannot have solidarity without transparency. One of the things Fain did was he stopped the closed door bargaining. He went on Facebook Live and showed the members the trash proposals the company was offering. He put the trash can on the table. That built immense trust. The members said, okay, he's fighting for us. So when he asked them to stand up, they stood up.
Contrast that with the cost neutral approach, where the leadership says, trust us, it's complicated, we can't tell you the details yet.
That is the death knell of a union. If leadership tells you it's too complicated for you to understand, or we can't bring this to a vote because it's a delicate balance, they are hiding a concession. Every time. A progressive leader trusts the membership with the truth. And frankly, the membership is smart enough to understand that a 5-year delay is a myth. They are smart enough to know that inflation is eating their paycheck and a cost neutral deal is a pay cut.
So, to wrap this up, for the person listening who is staring at their ballots, scared to check the box for the new candidate because of this 5-year rumor, what is the reality?
The reality is that the company wants you to be scared. They want you to vote for the predictable, weak option. The reality is that the Railway Labor Act protects the process, not the person. The reality is that a contract that isn't enforced is already lost. And the reality is that the only thing that creates a delay is a lack of leverage. A new leader brings a mandate. They bring energy. They bring the ability to look the company in the eye and say, the old days of looking the other way are over. That doesn't slow things down. That creates the pressure needed to actually finish.
It's about investing in the long game versus taking the quick payout.
It's about self-respect. Do you want a quick contract that locks you into poverty wages and higher healthcare costs for the next 5 years? Or do you want a contract that actually changes your life? The UAW chose the latter. They won. You can too. But you have to stop listening to the rumors started by the people who benefit from your fear.
Powerful stuff. Fear is a tactic, but solidarity is the answer. If this episode helped clear up the fog for you, send it to someone else in your local who might be on the fence.